Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. As always, on the fourth Wednesday of the month, I'm joined by Mark LaBarr, conservation biologist for Audubon, Vermont. Great to see you.
Always great to be here.
And we're going to get caught up on some viewer mail.
We are. We both have a pile of them here, so we'll try to answer some of those questions. But first, I wanted to update everybody on our midwinter bald eagle survey. Last month, we talked a little bit about that, and we had a record number of 80 bald eagles seen this past year, which is up from the peak, I think, in 2010 was about 30 birds. So they were all over Vermont this year, and I just want to say thanks to all the volunteers that helped us locate them. And again, it's great to see that bird back.
It is.
So, viewer mail. And let's see, I have the first one here. And this is from our neighbor just down the road in Huntington, Charlie Fraser, who I know and talk with on a regular basis. And he said, "Notice this band on a photo I recently took up the road at my feeder. Any way you can tell where and why it might have been banded?" And if you look, you can see this is a blue jay, obviously. It's on this feeder. Charlie really likes this feeder. And you can see the band on it. And more likely than not, I put that band on the bird. We run a banding station at the Audubon Center. And so that, you know, jays don't migrate. So more than likely it was one that I banded. I'd love to catch it just to see you know, when I did band it, but that's a local bird that's probably been sticking around for a while.
You don't think of blue jays as birds you would probably banned, but why would you do that? Just to get information on?
Well, as part of our banding station that we run, this monitoring avian populations banding station, we catch all kind of birds, everything from hummingbirds to blue jays to probably the largest one is, I caught a ruffed grouse, I think, last year. We didn't ban that one, it was a little bit too big, but we still caught it.
All right, well, we have a picture from Rachel Winans, and her question is, I took this picture on October 21st, 2014. Our guest is an albino red-tailed hawk. We saw it near Route 122 in Linden. It's by the edge of the wood by river plus cornfields, and it was being chased by crows.
Yeah, and this is a great shot.
That's a beautiful shot.
Yeah, look at that bird. I mean, that just stands right out. Although with all the snow we've been having, I bet you it would tuck right in. But yes, an albino leucistic red-tailed hawk is what I would say, and it didn't even have the red in the tail. Sometimes you can have hawks like that will be all white with a little bit of red, but this guy looks pretty straight up white.
All right, well, we have the next two letters might be about the same bird. Here's a letter and a picture from Ginny Wilson of Orwell. She says, "Hi, I identified this little cutie as a winter wren. I've never seen one at my feeder in the 25 years I've lived here. Is it unusual here or just hasn't happened to come by? I only have one and it's been here for 2 days."
Well, it is a wren, and we do have a couple of letters pertaining to this one. This is a Carolina wren, that really white stripe, and we've talked about Carolina wrens before. They're a bird that have moved pretty much into Vermont over the past couple of decades. It is a wren that sticks around during the winter months and will come out. And the winter wren, which she potentially has around her house, which is also a wren here in Vermont, that particular bird actually migrates out of the state. So the Carolina wren is here. House wrens, winter wrens move south. But again, I have a letter here from Timothy Hawley on the same topic. He has sent in a picture and it says, "I have 2 of these coming to my backyard. We have seen them on and off this summer and fall. Thought you might be interested in the picture." So here is another winter wren, and you can see it's on his feeder system, but they do come into feeders, but that really strong white eye line is kind of key for that one. And then I have another letter. This is from Den Weinberg. "Hello, Mark. I have occasionally had a single odd bird at my feeder with the chickadees. My initial thought that it was a wren because its tail was a bit short and tips up, but it seems too large." So again, that winter wren is a large wren. So many people seeing winter wrens. It's a great little bird. It's a loud bird. Tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle is its song. And when it starts singing in the summer, if they are nesting or in your area, you will know that that bird is there.
Excellent. Well, here's a picture from June Jones, and she writes, another barred owl. Think it's listening for a rodent. Usually hear them at night during the summer when the windows are open. Did not expect to see one during the day.
Yeah, and this is a great picture. You can see that barred owl. It probably is listening for prey. You know, the way owls are designed, they have their eyes and their ears right there in that kind of like two satellites right on the front of their head. And they use that as a means to listen for rodents and other things that are underneath the snow. And this time of year, they are nocturnal. Owls are nocturnal, but they will often come out, and you'll see them around feeders, or you'll see them hunting during the daytime as well. So a great shot from her. I had another question about owls. This is from Tom Martin. I happened to see you on Across the Fence today and would like to ask a couple of questions. His questions are, again, about owls. It has been snowing all day, and it was just before dusk. Visibility was slim. I was driving home and spotted this owl, so I did a U-turn, parked, and watched. It was about 30 feet high, sitting up on the top of a telephone pole. Any chance you could hazard a guess on what type of owl it may be? Probably, again, a barred owl. That's the most, the owl that we would see throughout the state. You get closer to Lake Champlain, you might pick up great horned owls, but my guess is it's a barred owl. He goes on, he had a couple of owl questions. Does an owl usually swoop for its prey? Sure. That previous picture, we saw it actually sitting on the ground waiting, but they'll come down and they'll take their prey from the air. Does it do a nosedive like a hawk? Probably not. It probably comes down, talons, talons first, and hawks do the same thing as well, trying to get those talons down. And you'll often see where an owl has hit, or even another raptor, by that splay, kind of splay of wing feathers in the snow. And does an owl have talons like a hawk? Sure enough. Yep, they're all raptors. So great questions from Tom.
And here's a question from Tyler Atwood. Hi, Mark, it's me again. While the other birds continue to feed when we move around inside the house, this one takes off the second it sees motion inside the house. It was impossible to get a photo to send you. It's about the size of a hairy woodpecker and has some similarities to the hairy woodpecker in its markings, although instead of black feathers, it is brownish, tannish in color with white stripes, and it has red on its head that starts at the beak and goes up from the center of the head. The same beak is the shape as the hairy woodpecker.
So Tyler was not able to get a picture, but we did get a picture from Ellen Lynch of West Haven.
Oh, okay.
And this is a red-headed woodpecker. I mean, sorry, red-bellied woodpecker. It does have a red head. That's why my brain shifted when I saw that.
I would just assume it was a red-headed, but
the red belly does have a blush of red on its belly, hence its name. This, too, is another species that over the past couple of decades is showing up in Vermont and becoming a regular visitor to feeders, and actually breeds in the state as well. So oftentimes seen in the Champlain Valley, the Connecticut River Valley, but Ellen got that nice shot of that. Yeah. She actually wrote, I thought you might like to see this beautiful guy who has been frequenting our feeder almost daily. He is a red-bellied woodpecker, right? Right.
All right, another picture in question from Laurie Capsey. She says, hello, Mark. I wasn't using a camera with much of a zoom, but could you tell me what bird this is? I'll send 2 pictures to give you an idea of his size.
So this is one of the pictures that she sent, and it's kind of tough to see from this, and this is often a case with images that are sent in to me, but there is a very distinct dark delineation in this hawk that's out there, and that makes me believe that it's what's called a rough-legged hawk. And the rough-legged hawk, this is a bird that comes down and it winters here in Vermont. We see it during the winter time. It tends to move back north again, come summer, spring and summer. But it's a pretty regular bird, especially if you get into Addison County. You'll often see these birds basically behaving like red tails, but they are
wide open spaces.
Yeah, they like that wide open spaces, and but they are a little bit bigger, and again have that distinct. They come in different morphs, but they usually have that distinct band across their chest. I have a question here from Norma Donovan of Randolph Center, and she writes, Thanks for all you do. Like watching you on Across the Fence. Thank you very much. It's always fun to do the show. Something is going on with my chickadees. The feathers around their neck are getting all wet looking, clumpy, and kind of makes like a parted area. I'm pretty sure they die within a few days, especially with this cold weather. I see no blood, but I'm wondering if they're being attacked. It starts small and gets bigger, and then it seems the bird is gone within a few days. I've watched it happen to 3 chickadees in the past 2 years. This is very sad. I love my chickadees. So this is an interesting question.
Yeah,
here's a picture of our chickadee. This is not one that's affected with whatever is happening. And my guess is that, but you can see on that feeder that chickadee has to stick its head into a feeder or something to get the food, a seed. So I'm wondering almost if these chickadees are feeding. It doesn't seem like it's happening at Norma's feeding stations, but if these chickadees are potentially sticking their head in and they're getting some kind of oil, maybe from peanut butter or something like that on somebody else's feeder, and that oil is starting to basically build up, and it's slowly causes those feathers to become flattened out. And of course, this would be detrimental to chickadees and other birds that have to make it through the winter because they lose that insulation that they would need.
So how can we check our own feeders to make sure that it's not detrimental to the birds?
Well, you just want to make sure. If you are using something like a suet feeder or something that does have those oils, make sure that the birds can access that without necessarily have to, sticking their head in there to get it. It could be a suet feeder, or like I said, even a peanut butter feeder. Or we've talked about different scrapable things you can put on the sides of trees that have peanut butter in it. So that'll be the type of stuff you just have to be cautious that the birds aren't picking up those oils on their feathers. And again, it probably could contribute to their deaths if it got, too extensive. Which
brings up another interesting point. If your feeders are low and the birds have to stick their head in the feeder to get at whatever seeds left, that could be dangerous.
Yes, yes. So, and as we've talked about, clean your feeders regularly. If you see this type of stuff happening at your feeder, certainly remove that feeder type or change it up. But we want to be able to help the birds, feed the birds, but not cause them any harm.
Right. Here's a question from Fred Stone of Pollitt. He writes, we have 6 bluebirds visiting this winter. Put some dried mealworms in the birdhouse, then made feeders. 2 of the birds to begin with, now 6 every morning at 7. Had a bluebird feeder for years, but no takers till I made one with 1.5-inch slots. They wouldn't use one that had a glass back. So he wants to know where they roost and how much mealworm is it safe to feed the birds?
Feed as many of those mealworms as you want to answer that question. If those birds are going to eat them, or any other bird is going to eat them, power them up with that stuff. Mealworms are a great food for bluebirds, so keep doing that. You can buy them at your local, Guy's Farm and Yard carries them, for instance. And as far as roosting is concerned, it's interesting. This time of year, it's been really cold.
Right.
And birds have different adaptations for getting through the night. Chickadees, for instance, can lower their metabolism, and they'll often find a cavity. Sometimes it's an old bluebird box or nest box that they can get into to get themselves out of the wind, and you can often find a number of them in there. There are some products out there now that you can get which are basically roost boxes. And this kind of looks like a bluebird box, and somebody put the hole in the wrong place. But actually what this is it's a roost box. It's in the same design as a bluebird box, but the hole is at the bottom, and that keeps the heat, any heat that's generated, from escaping.
Oh, good idea.
And then inside of the box, you can see here are these places where the birds can basically perch and roost overnight. So that design of having the hole in the bottom, having those roost platforms within there, gives the birds a chance or place to go when it gets really cold, gets them out of the wind, gets them out of the weather, and can be really helpful.
And where would you place one of those?
I think you could place one of those, if you had a field or near your house. It's not as temperamental as, say, a bluebird box, which you want to place out in a field. This one could go in the woods a little bit because a lot of different birds are using it. But I would say on a field edge would probably be your best bet to give access from field birds as well as the birds that might tend to stick around the woods.
Good idea. Well, we're out of letters now, but I know you wanted to talk about snowy owls.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, you know, we started the program with eagles, and they had a great year. And last year we had a great snowy owl year.
Yeah, we did.
And we're still in that snowy owl place. Let's just say they're calling it a shadow year. So the birds that were that we saw last year, due to the high number of lemmings and other rodents that came down, those birds are still around, and we're still seeing snowy owls in and around Vermont. Especially, again, one of the better places is down on Route 17, down around Dead Creek Wildlife Management Area. You'll often see them just sitting up in the trees right there along 17, or even in the Goose Pull-Off Center. But people are reporting them across the state.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, and thanks to everybody for sending in your letters and questions. It's always a lot of fun, and pictures, too.
Yep.
If you have a bird-related question, you can send it to Mark. You can write to him at Audubon, Vermont, 255 Sherman Hollow Road in Huntington. The zip code is 05462. You can also email him your questions. His email address is mlabarr@audubon.org, and hopefully we'll get you some answers here on Bird Notes. Thanks.
You're welcome.
That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.